Hey there folks, Mr. G here with just a quick educational video today. I just wanted to go a little bit over the test that you took, I guess either on Friday or on Monday, depending on whether you were first remote or first face-to-face. This is mostly for my remote students, since my face-to-face students are going to be receiving their test back in person and we'll be getting this explanation, but I wanted to post a video for the rest of you, just so we're all on the same page. In general, the test was okay, not the best, not the worst. Definitely a little bit less strong than I had expected. And I think that's for a couple of different reasons. First off, I think some of the expectations as well as some of the instructions were maybe a little bit unclear. One of the big things that I really focus on is making sure that you explain and show your steps. Now that wasn't a big issue for some of these first ones. Most people were able to draw a picture for this, but I noticed especially for these bed mass problems here, number 4, as well as the problems on the back here, where I was asking you to explain using a picture or explain whether your friend is correct or not, a lot of students just told me the answer and didn't really explain anything. When it says explain, make sure you use words and make sure to show all of your work. A lot of people for some of these word problems just wrote an answer. The issue with that is I can't give you partial credit if your answer is just wrong because you didn't show me anything, and if your answer is correct, I'm not sure if it's correct for the right reasons. Another reason I think this was a little bit rough is that there wasn't a lot of time before our first test. Typically in a regular classroom this would be like a first quiz, but because we're on a compressed timeline, this was technically a test. And always with the first test, there's little bumps in the road, everyone's getting used to being back at school, and we are in a very unique situation here. Which brings me to the last reason I think this test was a little bit rough, which is I think the questions were generally a little bit too hard, especially for my remote students, but even for some of my face-to-face students that were coming in, the questions were pretty tough. And maybe I need to make them a little bit easier to reflect that we are on a reduced timeline, and just to make sure that the level of difficulty for the questions is appropriate. Overall, the two big pieces of feedback I would give to you, especially if you're not getting to see your test right now, is to make sure that you're listening to the instructions, particularly around showing your work. My biggest piece of feedback would be show your work. A lot of students, especially for these types of questions, just wrote the answer. And if you get it wrong, I can't give you any credit, because you didn't show me anything besides just the wrong answer. And for these backside ones, the word problems, make sure that if it says to explain something, that you actually use some words to explain it. So a lot of students here just wrote an equivalent fraction for 3/4, but didn't explain why they are equivalent. Or they didn't use their picture to do that explanation. Here a lot of students just said yes or no to whether the claim was correct, didn't explain why. So, overall, explain your work, show your work. I think that'll improve things by a lot. If you would like to come see your test, you're welcome to. So if you are a remote student right now, you can send me an email. I will be posting the marks on my ed, so you can see where you're at for the test. But if you'd like to come see it in person, send me an email and I can set up a time during flex time for you to come in. Don't just show up, because I can't accommodate all the students that want to show up necessarily right away. So send me an email so that I know that my class won't be too full. Last thing I want to talk about is that when you get your test back with all of the marking done, you're not going to see it with checks and X's. You're going to see something a little bit different. You're going to see highlighter marks all over the place. So you'd see markings like little highlighter swatches like this in different colors, in blue and red and green. And those mean something. I have 4 colors of highlighter that I use. And the reason I like to do this is it's more descriptive than just a check or an X. So a green highlighter means that it's all good. Everything's there, you showed me all of your work, and the question is correct. Blue highlighter is usually, the key here is a small error. So it's usually some sort of small error that you've made, or it's only a partial communication of your work. So this could be something as simple as forgetting to reduce a fraction, missing a minus sign somewhere in your calculation. So not that you didn't put it there, but maybe it just disappeared. So 14 turned into -14 just because you forgot to copy down the negative, or if you weren't showing me all of your work for the question. Yellow highlighter, this is where you've made like a pretty major mistake. So there's something that is incomplete in a kind of a big way. But you've shown me at least partial understanding of the question. So it's not nothing, right? You show me, for instance, in like a bed mass question, this could be one step where you added before you multiplied, right? but then you did the rest of the question correctly from there, right? That's a pretty substantial mistake, but you can show me that you understand bed mass afterwards. Pink highlighter is usually if you're making 2 or more of these kind of yellow-sized mistakes, or you just did completely the wrong thing. This is what the pink highlighter is for. Basically, it's just wrong, and I can't give you partial credit for it. Once you've looked over your test, you'll see all of the different colors and markings, and we're going to fit you on this scale that we talked a little bit about at the start of the course. So all the way at the bottom here, incomplete. This is basically if everything's pink, maybe with a couple of yellows. Basically, you're showing me that you don't understand what's going on. Beginning, this is, you still might have a lot of pinks and yellows, but there are some basic calculation questions, basically the first page with all just the simple calculation questions that are green or blue. So you show me you do understand some of the basics, but not all of the basics. Developing is where you show me that you've got most of the basic calculations, you've got many of these, but there's still some yellow and pink on the front side. On the back side, you've shown me that you can do maybe a couple of the word problems or the applying understanding questions, but you can't do them consistently. For applying, this is where most of the stuff on the front side, with only a few exceptions, are green and blue. And then on the back side, you've also got quite a few of the questions correct, either green or blue, but still with some yellow and pink. Extending, these are the students that are understanding all of the basics as well as most of the application of your knowledge on the back sides. These are students that have mostly green and blue on both sides of their paper. And with that, that slots you somewhere in here, whether you understand some of the basics, most of the basics, all the basics, and you're working on applying your knowledge, or you understand all of the basics and you've shown that you can really effectively apply your knowledge here. So if on the test you look on the back side, at the very bottom, you'll see this right here, and you'll see one of the following circled. And that'll indicate the mark that you have. That's the end of the video. I'm sure you have questions, so please make sure that you send them in an email or post them on Teams, and I'd be happy to answer them. See you all in the next video.